Around 2.5 crore people every month are watching my videos. Indians are educated, but we're not health literate. Longer the expiry date, sooner we expire. And longer the shelf life, the shorter our life.
India is basically becoming a diabetes, capital of the world.
How Lay's in India used palm oil in the classic salted Lay's, but in the US, the same yellow color wala jo classic salted Lay's hota hai, that uses canola oil. Even till date, every single biscuit you see, they write so many claims, doodh roti ki shakti. It's impossible to give something healthy in 4-5 rupees. I've also heard of some students saying that they stopped having Maggi. Instead, they have Atta Maggi. They think it is equivalent to 3 rotis. Market yourself accurately. Don't call junk food healthy. In the next 10 years, you'll see a lot more healthier startups and VCs funding companies which are healthier. Thousands of years of human history. Packaged food that we're eating has been here for like less than 100 years.
Revant, welcome to SparX. I came across your work, I think few months ago, and initially I was intrigued, kya hai? Why is this guy talking about food labels and all? As I followed your work, I am super impressed. I mean, you have taken on a topic, I think, which is very much needed in the country. Probably wasn't getting much attention. I think personally, I feel packaged food is, while it is convenient, is doing a lot of disservice to, people's health. And being from health background and so on, I think it's a topic which is close to my heart. So first of all, I'm glad that we are able to have this conversation. But very, very unconventional choice. I mean, you had a stellar career at McKinsey. You could have been on a path to become partner or whatnot. And you decided to give all that up. And from what I understand, you are doing this full time.
Yeah.
How did this journey start? And what is the thought process that you are at the prime of your career and taking on a topic which I think is very apt, it needs attention, but still kind of betting on that you want to create this content, evangelize, also take on some of these mighty food brands.
Yeah,
no one is paying you to do this. You are right, in some ways your professional career is on hold while you are doing this work. What was the inspiration?
Yeah, so there are many smaller things. There's not one thing which led to everything. But by and large, one thing I realized is that Indians are educated, but we're not health literate. There's a very big difference between being educated and health literate. So I realized there's that lacking. So I wanted to do something in the health literacy space. That was one of the motivations. Also, I will say that I myself, about 9-10 years ago, studied nutrition. And even 10 years ago, I had written a book. And even out there, I had written about the importance of reading labels. But I did not get much attention that time because people don't really read books nowadays. So I decided to pivot into social media because that's where we spend our time. But yeah, I mean, that was like a thing that I felt like, Indians lack health literacy. And one more thing, if I take a bit of time, like in our life, I think one of the most important things is health. Health is strongly determined by food. And the food we're eating is packaged food, and most packaged food is blatantly lying to us. So if I solve packaged food in any way or form, I'm solving one of the most important things in our life. Sometimes people don't understand that, but if you look at the connection, it's a very important issue which I felt, and that's what led me to start. Obviously, there are many more things around the journey.
No, issue is definitely very important, right? And they say like you are what you eat, literally, and if you are eating bad stuff, that is going to have repercussions for you. And we are seeing that in India. I think some of your posts also you mentioned, India is basically becoming a diabetes, capital of the world.
Yeah.
There are 100 million plus people who are either pre-diabetic or diabetic, and these numbers are only going to increase.
And these are the numbers which are tested, and there's probably way more which is not tested, and we don't know about that.
Right. So the cause is, really worthy, but still, I want to committing yourself full time to do this. Even that is a courage of different level altogether, and you are giving up. Even there is opportunity cost to every choice in life. I want to understand your thought process behind that.
So that is actually a very good question, and almost everyone wants to hear an answer. Oh, there was someone in my family who got sick and that's why I did it. There's nothing like that. Genuinely, I am interested in social impact. Genuinely, and that is sometimes people find it hard to believe, but generally, and And I again think that health is one of the most important aspects, and I feel that if I add enough value, I can potentially make money as well. So I felt like this is a place where I can both add value and potentially make money as well. So that was what led me now. Okay, I'm in the US. I was at McKinsey. I'm consulting many brands. In fact, the brand that I make fun of now, I was sometimes consulting them when I was in the US. And I did not see myself doing consulting or that kind of a job all my life. I wanted to do something based in India. So that's why I took a major risk that, okay, I'll come to India and I'll focus on health literacy in whatever way or form. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll take 1 or 2 years and I'll figure it out. Coincidentally, or how it happened is that within 10 days of me coming, my first video went insanely viral. I had 1,000 followers. No one knew me. Within 7, 8, 10 days, I had 125,000 followers, and it was all over the news. So I made that Bonvita video, and it was all over the news. And suddenly, within 10 days, I became unofficially the face of food safety in India. So it just blew up. And
yeah, when you take risk, good things tend to happen. I just want to maybe emphasize that point. There are a lot of youngsters will be watching. This people have a lot of ambition. Whether professionally or for impact. People have all these ideas and they're waiting for something to happen. But at some point you have to take the plunge. If you really have conviction in something, and then give it at least a couple of years. If I look at, again, I can relate to my journey. Right, in 99, when I was 23-year-old, I quit my consulting job as well, moved to Bay Area, tried to start a company. Kuch hua nahi, but at least I got a taste of what the challenges are. Similarly, again, like you, after 10 years in US, I moved back to India. Again, उस वक्त ना तो इंडिया में इंटरनेट था, ना entrepreneurship सीन था, but I felt कि कुछ हो सकता है शायद, and कुछ हुआ नहीं for next 4 years.
Yeah.
But that's what you are doing is saying you had a belief, and instead of giving ज्ञान to other people or lamenting about the fact कि कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, government क्यों नहीं कर रही, you said, okay, I'm going to give 2 years of my life.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one more thing. Again, in this case, hopefully the risk has sort of paid off and is still paying off. About 9 to 10 years ago, I took one more major risk. I'm digressing a bit right now, but yeah. I got into IIM Bangalore. Obviously, it's very difficult to get into and things like that. And simultaneously, I had started writing this book, Self-Economics.
Yeah.
And I took a crazy call that time. I gave up IIM Bangalore. I did not even go. And instead, I was like, I'm going to become an author. And I was like, yeah, what if? And I was very immature. What if my book becomes a bestseller and I start I don't work anymore, I just become a full-time author. Then I realized later on that book has almost no money in it and things like that. And my book had got published by Bloomsbury, and I was a Harry Potter fan, so I was like, oh, J.K. Rowling ka bhi Bloomsbury tha. What if I become a huge author? So again, my point is I took a risk back then as well. It's very, very difficult from a personal standpoint to say no to IIM Bangalore. All your friends and family, they make fun of you. What are you doing with your life? Why are you not going? So I took a very major risk back then as well. In that case, it did not pay off. In this case, I took another big risk of not leaving leaving McKinsey in the US and coming back to India. In this case, it paid off very quick, within 10 days. And in fact, the day I got my legal notice from Bonvita was coincidentally my last day at McKinsey. So it was just within my notice period itself, I got it paid off.
I'm already finding a lot of parallels with your journey. So this is a long time ago, but in 97 I had the same, had an admission. I am Bangalore.
Oh.
And but also a job offer in US in a consulting company. तो मैं सोचा कि पहले मैं जाता हूँ वहाँ पे जॉब करूँगा 3-4 साल, फिर eventually I'll do MBA. But वो MBA कभी दोबारा हुआ नहीं. I know you finished your MBA in Wharton, so I think that risk also paid off. Wharton is obviously one of the top schools in the world, for business school. So just coming back to now, this your first video that went viral.
Yeah.
So we all grew up thinking Bonvita, Horlicks, health drink होते हैं ये वो. I think, and anyone who will pay attention to go through labels will realize that they are just loaded with sugar.
Yeah.
And you get sugar high as a kid, and sugar obviously we now know is highly addictive. It's one of the probably worst thing in the world today when it comes to health is the sugar addiction, which has mostly been created by the industry over the last 50 years. So when did you realize and why that particular brand? Like, what was the trigger for saying कि यहाँ से start करते हैं?
So I'll tell you one thing honestly. There are 2, 3 reasons. One is I had just come back from the US and I was in my own bubble. Like, मैं US में था, अलग ही zone में था. पहले मैं I was going to make a video on tonic water. Like gin and tonic, I was like, tonic water kharab. And that was the stupidest thing I could do. Then my video editor is an 18-year-old guy. He's from like 100, 200 kilometers away from Lucknow, like a very small place. He told me मैं tonic water क्या होता है मुझे पता भी नहीं. So then he told me mainstream कुछ करिए. Then I made my first video Bonvita and second video Chyawanprash. Again, the reason was one of them was that. The second thing was that the problem is I'm not against junk food. I'm against junk food marketing itself as healthy because I feel like that is even more risky.
Yeah.
Thing is, drinks like Bonvita, I don't have any personal problem against Bonvita per se, like an entire category. People have it early in the morning, empty stomach, and they have it twice a day. So like a Coca-Cola, you would probably have once or twice a week.
Yeah.
But a Bonvita, you have twice a day. So in a week, you're having 14 glasses of Bonvita and only 2 glasses of Coke. But most people think Coke is the problem. Actually, you're having Bonvita twice a day and you're having Bonvita empty stomach. So your sugar spike is also higher. Whereas a Coke you're having with food. So it's relatively, I would say that, if you compare, it's not as potentially as harmful. So that was like one of my things that, this is a childhood habit people are having for 15 years in a row, like, right from 6 years old to like 15, 18, 19, 20 years old. So it's a habit and childhood habits last very long. So when you become older also, you'll start craving sugar. Why? Because as a child, you were having sugar every single day. So I thought this is it's a very important product. So that's why I just made a video on it. I did not realize what it's going to become. I had 1,000 followers again, and just my friends and family and colleagues and all of that. Like, it just blew up like nobody
blew up slowly. Yeah, immediately.
So first day it got like 5,000 views or something, which is very, very not that big. It's still big for someone who has 1,000 followers. I was still happy. I have 5,000 views. But the next day it suddenly had 1 lakh views. And then the next day it had 1 million views, from one. So it just compounded. And it was also my first video as Foodpharmer. So earlier I used to make videos as Revant like my name. Then I changed my thing. When I had come to India, I was like, I used to make videos before as well, but it didn't really get views. So I thought I'm going to rebrand myself. I changed it from Revant to Foodpharmer, and then it was my first video as Foodpharmer.
Yeah.
And then I think I deleted a lot of my old videos. I removed my personal photos and all. I made it like a full health food page.
So you went through a pivot.
Yeah, full pivot.
Got it. So we'll come to this Bonvita and the brand reaction and other brand as well.
Yeah.
But before that, let's just talk about sugar. So when most people think of sugar, उनको लगता है कि sugar वो white चीनी जो मिला के करते हैं. But all this packaged food have all variety of sugar. From what I understand is this high fructose corn syrup was one of the earliest the additive people started adding because it was extremely cheap. Even wo jo sugar was still expensive hota hai, but corn sugar is ultra cheap.
Yeah.
And in most packaged food for last 30-40 years were loaded with that. And then you have different type of I think maltose, sucrose and so on. So it's kind of like, what is your understanding of what are all these different sugars and what do they do?
I mean, all of the sugars are essentially the same. They are essentially synonyms for sugar. There are various types. And in India, though, most of the companies will still write sugar. In the US, because people often read labels, and as you said, like the companies will use a different sugar, like high fructose corn syrup is very common because it's cheaper than often even white sugar. So it's just depends on the companies. They don't want to use the word sugar sometimes, so they use a different synonym. In fact, apparently the marketing team of many companies spend hours on trying to find a synonym for sugar, which people don't know of.
Yeah.
So they essentially have a very similar reaction to the body as sugar would have. And which is why, like, I know, like I have shared a screenshot also of like 74 different names of sugar. So I mean, that's And even many things which Indians consider healthy often, there are many Indian type sweeteners which people are like, "Arey, ye to healthy hai because we're Indian hai."
Yeah.
They also have a very similar effect to the body.
So you have done a great job of highlighting all these hidden sugars in this packaged food, and if people pay attention to food labels. But do you think most people understand why sugar is bad for them? लोगों को लगता है कि अगर diabetes हो गई तो फिर डॉक्टर बोलता है sugar कम कर दो, and which is fine. But for a growing kid, for somebody who is young adult, why sugar is bad for them?
One is that I would say that I don't want to just say sugar is bad. I would say excess sugar is bad.
Sure.
And within a limits, because right now it's just become too rampant for us to say that, you cannot have sugar and things like that, so that is one thing. It's just a host of problems, longer term, like pretty much every part of your body, it reduces your immunity, it results longer term in non-alcoholic, like liver disease and all of that, fatty liver and things like that as well. So there are a host of problems, right from like your teeth to your skin to like every part of your body is affected by excess sugar. So that is like the main challenges. And also is that it is relatively pretty hard to give up. It's easier to give up a lot of other, even like potentially more. So it just becomes a habit is also the thing that, we just keep having it as like in almost every meal in some way or form. So and I just try to simplify it for the audience, and I talk a lot about hidden sugars rather than the white sugar that we are putting in.
And your main thing is if something is bad, it's bad, but at the very least don't promote it as a healthy. Like at least cigarette ke packet pe likha rehta hai ki smoking injurious to your health, but some of these brands go out of their way to say ki isse immunity improve hoga, or the kid will grow faster and become taller and whatnot, right? All kind of claims.
Yeah, so that is the biggest issue. And like I just said earlier about the Coke and Bonvita example, that we have 14 glasses of Bonvita and 2 glasses of Coke. The same thing with biscuits and chocolates. That most Indians consider biscuits to be healthy and chocolates to be unhealthy. But we have in a week, we again have chocolates maybe twice a week and biscuits like 4 times a day, like 4 biscuits a day. So essentially you're having 28 biscuits a day, 28 biscuits a week. So my point is again the hidden things which market themselves as healthy, because most biscuits market themselves as healthy. And there's so many things like that. The orange powder drinks, summer ke time pe aate, there are so many drinks which start selling ki acha, you have to give it to your kids and things like that. So those are very, very harmful things. The parents would never give their children Coca-Cola for lunch, but they would not mind giving an orange powder drink. So that is like the biggest challenges which I'm trying to raise awareness and try to make it very, very, very simple for the people to understand.
Okay, so let's go to your first now viral video. So immediately the video goes viral and you get a legal notice. Was it scary? You were like, because the large corporation, they will have infinite legal budget. They can, do all kind of things, and at least now you are quite experienced in dealing with that. But really, in some ways, you are starting a revolution. You are from Calcutta. Rabindranath Tagore has this thing of, the song, right? Ekla Chalo Re. Literally example that you just, on your own, you're shooting video from your phone, and then suddenly you are getting, support from media, from like-minded people, from government, and it is leading to real change. These multinationals who thought they can get away with selling whatever in India because यहाँ पे जो किसी को कुछ पता नहीं है, like people are ignorant, we can sell 50% sugar as a health drink which mothers are feeding.
ये same product जितना मेरे को पता है, ये कैडबरी बॉर्नवीटा चालू हुआ था यूके में और 1948, 1 year after independence. They came. British left India in 1947. 1948, they came back to India in the form of Bonvita. So the British, they sent Bonvita back to India, and they started marketing themselves as a health drink. And eventually, they shut down in UK. So now Bonvita, you don't really get in UK. There are only 2 countries, as far as I know, which sell Bonvita: India and Nigeria. And again, they understand that in relatively poorer countries, you can sell certain things in a particular way and people can get away with it. So
Yeah, there was a period in India, right, where we think Videshi Mal acha hota hai, right? Angrezi naam hai. And I mean, it's a great business, right? If you sell sugar, market it up 10 times and call it health drink, it's a money spinner, right? And
yeah, and the audience loves it. The taste also people love. So so it works really well.
so, but and this sugar is kind of one culprit, right? But as you then you kind of went on this journey of analyzing these various food package labels and a bunch of things, right? You've talked about this whole palm oil, which is again extremely cheap, dense, calorie rich oil, but also just super easy, very easy to transport and so on.
Yeah.
Which is like some of these brands which use palm oil only in India because people don't know,
Yeah.
and they are not able to use in the little more aware countries.
Yeah, so the fight is not against sugar, as I said. It's the fight is against false marketing and trying to sell junk food as healthy. So I have video against excess salt, against palm oil in India. So I made a video on Lay's, for example, which showed how Lay's in India used palm oil in the classic salted Lay's. But in the US, the same yellow color wala jo classic salted Lay's hota hai, that uses canola oil, which is relatively lower in saturated fat. Now, of course, I understand there's a price reason as well, and there are like various reasons. So, I mean, there are various more ingredients besides sugar as well, which is they show, of course, salt is also one more thing. And
so, how does this work? Let's say you are using whatever ingredients for your product, and then on the front page, you have your I am Bangalore colleagues, who are brand managers, etc. They come with a fancy language of useful for this, that, and so on. They'll probably do market testing, and when it works, then you promote. But there has to be some strong governance also. You can't just get away with making these claims on when you're trying to sell, these cheap food products, and which are engineered to be extremely tasty. Like a lot of empty calories don't make you feel full at all, and you are slap on any this ridiculous claim on top of that. Like, whose job is to make sure they cannot get away with this?
so far they have been getting away. It's been like some companies have lasted for more than 70, 80 years and they are getting away. Even till date, every single biscuit you see, whether it's a digestive biscuit or whatever else, atta biscuit, this, that, like, milk biscuit, ye wo. They write so many claims, doodh roti ki shakti and ye wo, and they are getting away even right now. So whose job is it is a good question. I feel like the primary job, of course, will have to be the food bodies. The secondary job, I think, I think there are three people who are responsible. The company itself. Again, every company is trying to maximize profit, and I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing, but you have to be slightly mindful. I should say that, slightly at least, thoda to at least be mindful of the marketing you're doing. So the one job is of the companies to be slightly self-regulate yourself, even if the law is not strong enough. Like, try to regulate yourself. The second job is of the company, sorry, of the government, and like whichever bodies there are, for them to make sure that they are testing products accurately and they are verifying the marketing claims. And the third responsibility is of the consumer. So like you and me and everyone else, that you need to also do a little bit of your job, that you at least start reading labels a bit and try to find out what is in your food. I focus more on the third part. So I don't really fight with the government and all that much. I do the first and third. Then I'm fighting with the company. Then I'm fighting, like, I'm trying to raise awareness among the public. And my belief is that if a large percentage of India starts reading labels and we find out what is in our food, companies will be forced to reduce their false marketing and companies will be forced to put better quality ingredients. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I think, India also has in some ways an opportunity because we are still relatively early in our development cycle. This story has played out in the US for last, and Western world in the last 40, 50 years. At some point, these companies started vilifying fat. So people start shifting to zero fat, but a lot of sugar. And that has unleashed this whole obesity epidemic. It's just out of whack. In US, healthcare spends are crazy now, something like 20% of GDP now. And most of those lifestyle diseases are, people call it SAD diet, right? Standard American diet. And I think Yeah, I mean, between all these stakeholders you mentioned, if people can be more proactive, we can, try to prevent from us getting there. It'll be great to go from, the developed Viksit Bharat, all of that, and $10,000 per capita income. But that also means people are, you know, they keep gaining weight and keep acquiring all these lifestyle diseases. That's not a development that's worth aspiring for. But unless something is done, from awareness, governance, accountability, we're clearly heading in that direction.
Yeah, definitely. So because a lot of these foods have existed not for way too long, this I keep saying in the thousands of years of human history, packaged food that we're eating has been here for like less than 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's a very relatively new phenomena and a Western phenomena which we are adopting to and we've got habituated to. So the more we try to be aware, it can like reduce the likelihoods of certain illnesses. And also one more thing I'll say that you use the word healthcare, the 20%. There's a thing which, like I say, and like I'm not the first person to say it, it's like sick care. It's not healthcare, it's sick care. We are using it. We are using that after we get sick. The problem is most of us don't focus on prevention and education, and is trying to be healthy in the first place, such that you would not need that medicine in the first place.
Yeah. So in terms of, I think where you have focused on is just reading the labels, and a lot of times people use very jargony language. It's very not easy to parse out ki exactly kya hai. Even like percentage daily dose, something we say like percentage daily dose of 50%. Now that is a 50% of what I'm supposed to consume whole day. So that is how can average consumer educate himself or herself, to read, understand uska matlab kya hai, and what is how do I put that in the context of what I'm going to consume in the whole day?
That's a good question. I think it's very confusing. Even for people who are educated, and nutritionists also, for them is also sometimes confusing ki ye hai kya? Is it healthy or not? I feel like we need a mix of two. One is health education. A second thing which I am doing is potentially using tech. So you are a tech guy, so you will understand there's a lot of room for tech disruption. So I'll tell you 2-3 ideas. One is scanning the barcode and it'll tell you how healthy a product is. So suppose you scan a Parle G and it gives you a score on 100. And if it's not healthy, it'll give you 3 alternatives which are healthier. So like it can even be packaged food option or non-packaged food. So it can tell you, okay, instead of the Parle G, can you have roasted chana? So things like that. So there's a tech aspect, I think, will also develop a lot in the next 5-10 years. You'll see a lot of startups coming in this space. The more the awareness increases. And I feel like there are some regulatory and other aspects, like for example, every single nutrition label in India is in English. And from what I've studied, about 15% or 20% of India knows how to read English. So what about the remaining 80% of India who does not, when they see G for glucose or when they see high protein, उतना उनको awareness नहीं है कि they'll understand कि वो back of the package में वो font 6 में क्या लिखा है. With the tiny font में they write. So if you don't understand the language, the likelihood of you to pay attention is much lower. The way a privileged person thinks and the way a not so privileged person thinks is very different. So I see students from government schools and not so well-off schools, they would often say ki I have stopped having Coke. And I want to become healthy. I have stopped having Coke. Now I have Sprite. And they think ki because Sprite is clear, like it's transparent, Sprite is fine.
Yeah, Nimbu Pani just there.
Nimbu Pani, exactly the word. The same thing they think with Limca is that Limca is Nimbu Pani with some sugar. They don't realize that essentially it's the same thing as Coke. There are a lot of people on Twitter and all who are intellectual snobs. And I'm like, I am not focused on you. I am trying to focus on a very different audience which does not know very basic things on health. And if I'm able to teach them some things, it can be very, very useful. I've also heard of some students saying that they stopped having Maggie Instead, they have आटा मैगी and वहाँ पर लिखा है कि 1 Maggi is equal to 3 rotis. So, लिखा रहता है ना पैक में 3 रोटी का फाइबर and 3 रोटी का प्रोटीन ये वो. So, they think it is equivalent to 3 rotis.
Yeah.
So, these are the kind of very basic challenges in the, you go to different pockets of India.
What do you think? So, okay, see, you started this, saying you genuinely are very impact oriented. What is your vision in this packaged food space? Like, if things go well, if everything comes together, where would you like things to end up in 5 years or 10 years?
So I feel like in the next 5 years, 2 things will happen. You will see a lot more healthier alternatives, not healthier.
Yeah.
So brands starting things with nuts and protein and and including protein chips and things like that, which will be relatively better. I also think that the brands will reduce their false marketing a lot. Like they'll no longer at least the startups will stop saying taller, stronger and things like that. And I'll tell you one thing, it's very difficult to get a company to reduce its existing product. Although I have been lucky or fortunate that some companies have changed their products. But any existing company, like suppose a Amul or a Britannia or any big company, when they're launching a new product, they will think 20 times before doing a false marketing.
Yeah.
New product I think they will stop saying that this is source of vitamin C and calcium and So I feel like in the next 10 years, you will see brands with reducing their claims a lot. You will see a lot more healthier startups and VCs funding companies which are healthier and cleaner. So I think these two changes will happen. The challenge will be though that India is a very diverse country and the income is pretty low. So what do you do about companies which are very mainstream and they're catering to a price point of 5-6 rupees? वहाँ पर it's very difficult to be like अच्छा मैं clean oil use करूँगा और मैं sugar नहीं डालूँगा because sugar is the cheapest. So that will be the most challenging categories like the Parle-Gs of the world. I think that will not change. And that's not possible to change also because they are catering to it's impossible to give something healthy in 4-5 rupees.
Yeah, probably only alternatives maybe home food, which is also quite cheap but takes effort, I guess.
I think in the next 10 years, you will see a lot of desi stuff, which will be made into packaged food, like a roasted chana, peanuts brand. There are some.
Yeah, bhel puri, type.
हाँ, but उतना mainstream नहीं है. It's not like Lay's.
जिससे reminding me of बचपन में हम लोग वो सत्तू खाते थे, which is basically ground roasted chana, which is very portable, quite tasty. You add some lemon, some salt in it, and it's a.
I personally feel sattu should be the substitute for Bonvita. A lot of parents ask me, अच्छा Bonvita खराब है तो क्या दें? Or I never say Horlicks or something because that's a very similar product. I feel sattu is if someone markets it really well and if someone creates a good product, I feel sattu is a very, very, it is going to get back into fashion and I think it's going to do really well.
Yes, that's surprising enough, I think a few months ago I was in US and one startup reached out to me, which is, I think the founder was Indian origin. They're creating a bunch of products from sattu. It was pretty, interesting to see that somebody's trying in the US. But coming back to, so I think then, we've seen this, all these D2C brands are, quite the rage in the country, including food space. So I think it's a generally good opportunity because some level, I think awareness will increase. Consumers will demand better, at least relatively healthier products. And these large companies may be slow to react or do, make 1% change and claim 50% change and so on. But people who can authentically build healthier versions, probably find an audience.
Yeah. So I think now in the last 1 or 2 years and the startups which are going to come up in the next 5 years, they are definitely going to focus on health because they've realized that companies now, consumers now are getting aware.
Yeah.
The challenge has been in the last 10 years, many startups have come about. which are also doing the same thing in a slightly more sophisticated manner. So all the peanut butter companies, so many peanut butter companies are using sugar and a lot of other like vegetable fat and things like that, and claiming themselves to be healthy. So the challenge has been in the last 10 years, a lot of juice companies have come about, same story. So I feel that many startups so far that have been coming about are selling junk. But I think in the next 5 years, many startups will be like, okay, I'm going to sell fully clean. The challenge will be, do they have the financial bandwidth and the thing that to be able to sustain themselves? Because packaged food is a very easy idea to think of. So too many people enter. Way too many people. जो भी किसी के पास भी थोड़ा surplus money है, चलो यार ये मखाना इंटरेस्टिंग लग रहा है, मखाना का ब्रांड चालू कर देते हैं. सत्तू इंटरेस्टिंग लग रहा है, सत्तू का ब्रांड चालू कर देते हैं. Without realizing how difficult it is to survive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to build a brand, you need to figure out a supply chain, distribution, and so on. What about preservatives? Most packaged food also, I mean, that's the other thing, right? Preservative is a chemical that you're putting in this thing, so it doesn't go bad and last on shelf. And if you don't have shelf life, then you have bad inventory. But for shelf life, you're adding all the preservatives. So what do you say about those things?
So there's a funny line called, it's called, longer the expiry date, the sooner we expire. And longer the shelf life, the shorter our life. So in general, it's like, don't buy packaged foods with a very long shelf life. And because it has more preservatives. So yeah, I mean, preservatives are an issue. However, I think there are limits which the government has put in, and if you're following that limit, potentially it's not as harmful. Again, it's hard to judge from the outside how much is within the limit, how much is not within the limit. There are some preservatives which are natural, and are you exceeding that preservative limit? And also, these are like certain things which is hard to answer. I'm not saying all preservatives are bad eventually.
But lesser the better.
Lesser the better.
And there are packaged foods wo no preservative वाले भी होते हैं. Shelf life कम होता है. But that's something people can consider.
That is again, I think, a category. जैसे I think Zara या कुछ का हुआ था ना कि they manufacture the product once the demand is being, or something like that. Yeah, just in time. I feel like in packaged food also, will there be a world in which we have something more just in time-ish? Something which is with a very short shelf life, with 2 months or 1 month and things like that. It'll be very interesting to see. I think there are already companies which are trying to have shorter shelf lives. Of course, the issue is that then the retail companies don't want them. So it's a slow change which will keep happening. But hopefully in 10 years' time, you'll see some slow changes compounding with time and becoming a large change.
Right. And I mean, I think you have taken a massive lead in kind of, catalyzing that slow change, which is, I think, going reasonably fast. It's not that slow anymore. How do you look at the impact so far? If you just look back and the journey that, you've had in terms of reach or actual changes on ground, or maybe your estimate of, because a brand changed something, therefore how many people are able to consume something even slightly better than before?
So I'll say it's massive. If it comes from me, it sounds a bit braggish, but
अच्छा काम कर रहे हो तो बोल सकते हो.
So the reach I have, and it's insane because I'm an individual with one part-time video editor. Like, I have more reach than many news channels. So if you look at my statistics online, like around 2.5 crore people every month are watching my videos purely. This is a number which I have. There's a lot more of WhatsApp shares and all which I don't know of. I'm doing TV interviews and all which I don't know of. That's a different thing. I'm just saying purely on Instagram and YouTube. So 2.5 crore people every month. So in a year's time, you're reaching like a very, very large number.
Are your parents proud of you now?
They are proud. They're still like, यार ये सब तो ठीक है लेकिन पैसा भी तो कमाओ. So again, I'm big on Instagram more than YouTube, and Instagram doesn't pay. So that is like one challenge. So yeah, but they're proud of what has happened and the acknowledgement and support which I'm getting. So that is amazing and reach is insane. The other aspect is the companies changing their products. So Bonvita reduces added sugar by 15%. Maggi ketchup reduces added sugar by 22%. Lay's began its trial to replace its palm oil. Government stopped Bonvita and many other companies from putting themselves as a health drink. Just 2 days ago, there was something with juices being removed as you cannot call yourself 100% fruit juice or something like that. And so many more things like, there was some Nestle baby milk controversy, and now Nestle is saying that now within the next 2 years, they're going to develop a Cerelac or develop an infant milk formula which does not have sugar. Like right now it has sugar in India, but in Europe it does not have sugar. So in India also now they're going to get a new version. So my point is, one major company changing its product by little bit means that 40, 50, 70, 80, 100 crore people are consuming something slightly better, 1% better. So it's a very, very drastic change.
Yeah.
If you do the math, it's insane.
I think your journey is, super inspiring. I think it's a perfect example of, if you have a conviction in something and courage of conviction, you start. Sometimes things may start slowly. Sometimes, things may blow up immediately. But I think you are, first of all, being true to yourself. You are working on something worthy and good things happen. I mean, this is, I think, I really hope, your 2.5 crore number go up to, 10, 15 crores, because this is really important. I think, what people put in their body, especially in the bodies of younger kids, infants, is super important. It's going to affect, their physical health, their mental health, the onset of lifestyle diseases much later in the life. So I think it's a absolutely worthy cause, and it's just very inspiring, to see your journey. And I really wish you all the best and a lot more success, including monetization. However you figure out, I think, when you do good things happen to, us in return as well. So thanks so much for doing all this, and
thank you so much.
Really wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. At SparX, we aim to bring to you stories of exponential impact. We share in-depth analysis of what goes behind success stories. If you find our conversations interesting, you can join us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also listen to SparX on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or any other audio platform of your choice. If you have any suggestions on who we should invite or what topics we need to cover, just let us know in the comments. We are always listening, looking for ways to improve, and keep getting better as we go along.